Hello and welcome to another edition of Motor Cars Enthusiasts. Right off the bat on the old show today, we've talked long and hard about Mitsubishi and about the situation they've been in here as of late, where they've actually fudged a little bit on all their fuel economy numbers, which has got a lot of government entities and a lot of organizations coming after them for these alleged allegations, and has actually got them down in the dumps a little bit, but someone's come in to possibly save the day and help them out a little bit. And it's these folks, the folks over at Nissan and Renault Nissan. Renault Nissan has actually went in and spent $2 billion to actually purchase over 33% of the company, which Japanese law states that anytime you own that much of a company, you have controlling stake. So Carlos Ghosn, the head of Renault Nissan, is actually now over the helm of Mitsubishi a little bit. So this may be a very, very good partnership for these three little groups to actually get a bigger foothold on the rest of the world. So excited times possibly for this group heading into the future. Next up on the list, well, if you didn't watch the Formula One Spanish Grand Prix from Circuit de Catalunya, you missed a lot because it was a barn burner of a race. You got the two Mercedes cars who've pretty much been killing everybody for the past couple of years, winning a pair of championships, not to mention winning every race this year. In fact, we already talked about young Nico Rosberg. But now Mr. Rosberg and his teammate, Lewis Hamilton, actually end up getting together, taking each other out in the opening laps of the race. In fact, they didn't even make a full lap of the circuit. Huge come together, and it was a terrible time for those guys. But it opened up the field to whoever else could get this race in and get this race won. And you were thinking right off the bat, Ferrari. Ferrari were about the only team that were actually taking it to the folks over at Mercedes-Benz. So you think that they were going to win it? Well, yeah, if you saw the race, you already know who won it. If you haven't, I'm spoiling it for you right now. It's this young kid, 18-year-old, in fact, 18 years, 228 days year old, Max Verstappen. Mr. Verstappen's now the youngest Formula One winner of all time to go right along with the youngest Formula One driver of all time at just a touch over 17 years of age. Now, Mr. Verstappen took on all comers, including Ferrari, finished second and third. In fact, held off 2007 world champion Kimi Räikkönen in the last several laps and did an amazing job, along with the guy he's now beaten for the youngest ever Formula One driver, four-time world champion Sebastian Vettel, who won his first race in 2008 in the Italian Grand Prix when he was just 21 years and 73 days old. Now, Mr. Verstappen here has had an interesting week as of now. Now just winning this race, but actually getting bumped up to the big team. If you know anything about Formula One, there's two teams, and then there is Toro Rosso, which is kind of the junior team, if you will. The one team that they bring up a lot of young talent, like young Mr. Verstappen here. And along with his teammate, or was teammate, Carlos Sainz Jr., son of Carlos Sainz, World Rally champion from several years ago. Much like Max Verstappen, his father, Jos Verstappen, I actually watched him race in the inaugural U.S. Grand Prix in Indianapolis back in 2016 years ago. Now, young Mr. Verstappen here had just got bumped up to the junior team. Now, a lot of people think that they were knocking back Daniel Kvyat, the Russian-born driver, basically because he had a couple of run-ins with Ferrari driver Sebastian Vettel, ex-Red Bull racer. A lot of folks in that team really still love Sebastian Vettel, so there was a lot of talk that that was the case. There was also a lot of talk, too, that Ferrari themselves were actually courting young Max Verstappen about driving their car next year. So there's a rumors 2.5 for as far as that particular situation is concerned. But the number one rule in Formula One racing is beat your teammate. And Mr. Verstappen did it in his first go-round, actually getting beat just barely by his much more vetted teammate, that is Daniel Ricciardo. Mr. Ricciardo, Australian-born driver who actually has won several Grand Prix on his own and actually outran Mr. Verstappen in qualifying, but got beat handily by him in the race where Mr. Ricardo only finished 4th place to his young teammate. So a big congratulations to Mr. Verstappen, the whole Verstappen family, the whole Red Bull team, as it were, because those guys did an amazing job kind of coming out of nowhere. That Renault slash Tag Heuer badged engine has really got some smoke in it, and they got a big upgrade coming up in the next couple of races, which could mean they could put them on par with Ferrari and Mercedes coming soon. So may a lot bigger things for Mr. Verstappen here in the future. Next up on the list, well, we've talked about this in episodes past. In fact, the last episode, the brand new Jeremy Clarkson, Richard Hammond, and James May vehicle called the Grand Tour, which I still thought was a pretty cruddy name. But we've got a little more light shined on why they're calling it the Grand Tour. That's making a lot more sense. The first ever edition of this show is actually not going to have, or I guess the first go round of these shows are not going to have an in-studio component to it. They're actually going to wander around and do those actual snippets that kind of tie all the little videos together into one big package. They're going to do this all over the planet. They're going to start off in Yorkshire, England, which actually these 3 chaps actually grew up, which is the reason why they're going to start there. But then they put it out on the internet that you can invite them to your hometown to come shoot this particular little small segments of this show, which got the internets all abuzz and got tons of people. In fact, over 20,000 people actually wrote in within about an hour's time there where they wanted them to come next. So this Grand Tour is exactly that. It's going to be a pretty big Grand Tour. It's going to be pretty exciting. Cannot wait for this new show. It's coming up in the fall of 2016. Last up on the list, we're going to talk about this big man. This is Victor Shepard. Mr. Shepard brought in the vehicle that's in the background, the 2007 Toyota Tundra, back brand new in 2007, and proceeded to put on well over 100,000 miles on it a year to come up to the now million miles on this machine. Now, this vehicle's been well taken care of. Still has the factory engine, still has the factory transmission, and other than some bumps and scrapes and some chips in the paint, some small dents and whatnot, the car is reasonably like it was when he bought it back in 2007. And in fact, Toyota is so in love with this car, they traded Mr. Shepard even up for a brand new Tundra because they want to study this vehicle head to toe to try to figure out what they got right and what they got wrong. Obviously, there's been tons of these million-mile stories, but I kind of like this one a lot. This guy really drove the hell out of this car in next to no time. This vehicle very rarely probably was sitting still. And that's all there was that I thought was worth talking about for this edition of Motor Cars Enthusiasts. Don't forget to like us over on the Facebook page. Links down in the show notes will take you right over there. We update that every day, twice a day. Also, if you'd like to subscribe to the channel, you can do so at any time. Get the first dibs on the brand new shows as soon as they come out. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again real soon.